Another aspect of that story is to do with the employee compensation. I don't know if the Chinese newspapers talked about it, but in the English newspaper, they were making a deal of the fact that because these men were not actually at work, they were on their way to work, they wouldn't be able to receive compensation.
This is the important point. This is important about employer protection. The Chinese newspaper talk a lot about this too, because it's not covered. That's why all the bartenders has suffered a very tragic death. More tragic because they don't get any compensation. Official compensation.
Because it's actually if it was actually at work, it would have been 330,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is quite a substantial amount, obviously, for their families. So that's something which, especially as people who are interested in workers' rights, that's something which definitely needs to be changed.
If Donald has to show that he really cares, he should try to speed up this part of the so-called legislation more quickly than even the drink driving itself.
And I think also the insurance company, because they are
reluctant. They don't want to cover this part,
and deliberately they don't want this to happen, isn't it?
But the newspaper has already remarked that other countries has already introduced this part of the law. That means when you're going to work, you are still covered.
For example, in the SARS case in 2003, and then they cancel the SARS is not under the coverage, and then I think the insurance company, the management all over the world, AIA, any company, should have the conscience to the people.
So when we want to talk a bit about Dr. Chan, we want to talk about this other issue, political issue that's going on.
We go back to Donald Trump again, because actually the day just after the Obama's inauguration, right? You see, Donald Trump has announced a case of sort of mini cabinet reshuffle. That means the executive council, he reshuffled some members and introduced some new members into it. One of them is very, very controversial, and another is also quite controversial. The most controversial one is Wong Fat, right? The chairman of the new territories tycoons, we should say, the landlords of the new territories. He's the leader of them. And then another is one. This Lau Junyi is the principal, the vice chancellor of the Chinese University of Hong Kong, who is always probably the most criticized principal among universities in Hong Kong, right? So this is a very tragic case, because you see, if you are in a globalization scene, and then we watch the TV and listening to Obama's speech and watching the American democracy at work, and then on the other hand you are watching this Donald Trump doing such kind of so-called closed-door reshuffle, which is actually a kind of political rewarding, especially for Wong Fat, right? The new territories landlords leader. Right?
Is he quite a well-known guy, that guy?
Yeah, he's well-known, especially recently, about his usurpation of the Liberal Party's electioneering, and then causing them one very, very dear vote, seat, electoral seat of the vice chairman of the Liberal Party, Ms. Zhao Liang-Shuk-yi. Right.
All right. So we're going to talk a bit more in the second half about this this cabinet reshuffle and what Donald's been up to, and then we're going to go on to have some discussion about the big news in America to do with Obama becoming president, and also have a bit of more discussion. We're going to discuss about Martin Luther King as well, and his influence on Obama, and what Martin Luther King, in terms of his movement, and why it was so important in America for the civil rights movement.
Okay, so see you in part 2.
選民選我哋入去，同埋我哋選舉期間講得好清楚噶嘛，要讓曾蔭權噩夢成真，佢而家都未噩夢成真，佢稍為有少少頭暈身㷫啫嘛，投票俾我哋嗰啲人好清楚噶嘛，選我哋又要做咩啊？一字咁淺就係叫我哋去亂。
逢星期一、星期四晚上10點，黃毓民頻道貫徹聲嘶力竭，同你剖析政治。
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So we're just going to finish off that discussion about the reshuffle. I mean, what do you think Donald Tsang's up to?
No. I just reported the public comments on his reshuffle. It's basically a very myopic move. That means he's becoming increasingly isolated. He didn't utilize this occasion in order to admit more, for example, democratic camp people inside his cabinet. So the only exception being this Wong Yuk, the former chair lady of the Equal Opportunities Commission, right? But then Wong Yuk herself has not been actually formally in link with the democratic camp. So all these members, right, especially they were being commented by public commentator as they are all pro-teach of the estate tycoon Li Ka-shing. So actually one legislative councillor even went on to say that this is Li Ka-shing has played all the cards. Right. This is something really scandalous, because actually it shows that Donald Tsang has become increasingly isolated, has become increasingly inward looking. So much so that even Anson Chan recently, just 2 days ago, was reported as criticizing him, becoming more and more autocratic.
I read those comments as well. It was interesting to see her say such strong comments.
Obviously, she got some insider information about Donald Tsang, maybe even within the government's AO group. Right? That there are several factions, maybe AO groups, but Donald Tsang is only utilizing all the people from his own so-called his stable.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, as regards this guy, Mr. Lau, how dirty a guy is he? Well, obviously, he's got very close links, isn't he, with the Beijing government and so on.
Yes, but there's so many people who has deep links with Beijing government. Even if you want to choose someone like this, you don't need to choose this guy who is so notorious in subverting the whole Liberal Party.
I think because he was the one who helped to dismiss the power of Liberal Party, so they give Donald Tsang give him back his rewards.
That means at the so-called instigation of the central government's agencies in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
Right. The Zhongrenban, that means the China liaison office or something like that, right? Now even Ming Mao, which is actually usually pro-government, right? Criticized this very much about La Wong Fa, this the New Testament, the New Territory leader, whose admission into the Legico, into the Exco, because based on his very right what should we say? So very weak performance inside the Legico for 15 years. He has been throughout as a kind of so-called appointed Legico councillor, right? But his behavior inside and is totally undistinguished, we should say.
Because I talk to a lot of different people, and you hear stories and stuff. I mean, what do you think about some people say that some of those new territories councillors and leaders have got links with organised crime as well and triad groups?
This may be true, but this is not a very strong point, because there are so many Hong Kong authority who has deep links. For example, in the entertainment industry, they have deep links with the China society. So this is not important. The important point here is about political rewarding.
Right. Yeah.
That means this is the opening up a very bad precedent about political rewarding.
So maybe a lot